News Center Maine is partnering with the Maine-Monitor to bring you some of the reporting being done by journalists at the independent nonprofit publication. We'll be featuring one of their stories each week. So last month, about 30 people gathered at the First Parish Cemetery in York to honor a man none of them had known. Rose Lundy is a senior reporter with the Maine-Monitor. She joins us now to talk about how a community really came together for a Vietnam veteran who otherwise really had no one to attend his funeral. Hi, Rose.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. Okay, let's start with this funeral. How did this come about?
Yeah, so I spoke to a woman named Janie Sweeney who works at the York Community Service Association, and she told me about how she learned of this man named James who had lived in the York community with his wife for almost 40 years. And but the reason she heard about him is that his oil delivery company in York hadn't heard from him all winter, and they were kind of concerned about where he was. And that when they went out to his home, he wasn't there. Neither he or his wife was there, and a water pipe had burst. So they got kind of concerned, and they reached out to Janie about to find out what happened. And when she called around, she ultimately learned that he and his wife had moved to a long-term care facility in Bridgeton, and he ended up dying in March, but had no one who could attend the funeral with him. His wife is still alive, but she has very advanced dementia and wouldn't be able to leave her home. So Janie thought it was really important to bring him back to York and gather some people in the community so that he wouldn't be sent off on his own. And in particular, he was a Vietnam War vet, and she made sure to make sure that he had military honors during the funeral.
Gosh, clearly very important for her. Why was this important for his community to come and be a part of this?
Yeah, she talked about how it's important to her that no one is sent off alone and that people can kind of come together and honor a member of their community. And it's actually not the first time that the York community has done this. This was the fifth time that they've gathered people for a funeral for someone who doesn't have anyone to be there. And it was actually the largest gathering that they've gotten so far. They started doing it in 2022 and have actually even set up a funeral fund with the town of $4,000 to support these kinds of efforts going forward.
It's ultimately a sad story to report on, but incredible to see the community coming together like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think it's important too that, there are many other people out there like James. We are the oldest state by population in here in Maine, and we're seeing nationally and in the state that there are more and more older adults who live alone and could reasonably expect to die alone. Somewhere between 20 and 25% of older adults nationally are considered socially isolated, and about 28% of older Mainers live alone. So, this is something that the York community is doing to try to honor their community members, but I think we could see more and more happening across Maine and conversations about how do we support people at the end of their life.
Absolutely. Rose, thank you for coming on and talking about this.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And you can read the full story and much more at the-maine-monitor.org.